Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome back to another session here at Virtual Potter Travel Mart 2021. Today we are looking at this session. We're looking at Destination Tour Operator and DMC Insights Exchange, as well as a briefing up from our speakers. So before we get to the session, let me first introduce myself. My name is Paul Brangan. I'm the Director of Communications and External Affairs at the Pacific Asia Travel Association, and I will be your host for today. Now, before we get to our first presenter, I do just want to go through a couple quick technical notes. I'm sure many of you are familiar with how to use Zoom, but just as a refresher, you will see that at the bottom of this browser, you'll see a chat function and a Q&A function. Please use the chat to engage with other participants. Say where you're from, say hello, what your business is. If you want any comments about any presentations, feel free to use the chat function. However, please do not submit any questions using chat. Please submit your questions using the Q&A function as noted on your screen. It's difficult for me to moderate the panel discussions, to go back between the chat and the Q&A. So please do drop your questions into the Q&A function. And as always, please do keep any chat or Q&A professional and cordial during today's session. So that is all my notes for this morning, and we're going to jump right into our first presentation. And with that, from the Sabah Tourism Board, please welcome the Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Norida Othman. Norida, hello.
Hi, Paul. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Very good afternoon here from Kota Kinabalu. Can you hear me well, Paul?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, all right. Thank you. It is a pleasure for me to be able to join everyone here, and welcome to the Pata Travel Mart destination discussion. My name is Norida Othman, and I'm the CEO of Sabah Tourism Board. As you know, if you may not know, Sabah is one of the states in Malaysia, and we are located on the island of Borneo. And we are the second largest state in Malaysia, basically, and sharing the island of Borneo with, of course, our sister state, Sarawak, whom you will be able to meet someone from there later on, Brunei, and Indonesian Kalimantan. Sabah is richly blessed with natural diversity, unique cultures, fun adventure, beautiful beaches, and fantastic cuisines, local traditional cuisines. And for those, especially for those, the adventurous taste buds, we have it all, from the largest flowers in the world, the Rafflesia, one of the highest mountain, and it is the highest mountain in Malaysia. We have the top 3 highest mountain in Malaysia, basically, in Sabah. And of course, from eco treasures from mountain high, we also go to the depth of the ocean, and one of our best world top dive site is Sipadan Island. So not only will you be amazed by the places to see and things to do here in Sabah, once you can travel overseas, you will also be treated with unique Sabahan hospitality, explore the unique culture. We have more than 30 different ethnic communities speaking more than 50 different languages and more than 100 dialects. And get ready to experience sweet memories to last a lifetime. The global pandemic has severely affected our tourism industry here in Sabah. We know it has affected everyone globally, and we are not spared from this pandemic. And our lifestyle has totally changed, and we are trying to adapt to the new norms of living. We have been fighting with the virus for more than 18 months now, and we are still struggling to live with it. Despite the challenging situation, Sabah Tourism Board has continuously carried out our promotion in terms of introducing our vast and rich natural heritage. Sabah is also known for cultural diversity, historical aspects, and heritage. Cultural heritage in Sabah is one of the uniqueness that we have in Sabah. It is an attraction for many foreign visitors because we have so many ethnic communities. Sabah Tourism also aims to emphasize tourism in rural areas, where we have introduced community-based tourism products since 2014. And we hope that when international borders are open, you will be able to experience it yourself. From The current situation in Sabah right now is that based on our survey, there's at least 85% of our tour operators, tourism players in Sabah have had their first dose of vaccine, and 45% have had their second dose. So this is quite progressive information for us. And among the tourism attractions that we have in Sabah, 87% of the players have had their first dose, whereas 68% have completed the second dose. So we feel that we can see light at the end of the tunnel. And although Malaysia is still not open for international tourism arrivals, but we hope that we will be able to see you back in Malaysia again very soon. I would like to share a little bit of Sabah. Let's bring you on a journey around enchanting Sabah. If we can please play our video, Paul. Thank you. I think that was a short journey around Sabah. So for those of you who have been to Sabah before, probably you're missing Sabah right now. But for those of you who have not been to Sabah, we welcome you when our borders are open. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Norda. Yes, I miss Sabah. You know, it was actually our last real physical events at PATA was in Sabah. So it was our last last memories of travel. So I do miss it, as Norida says. And thank you so much. We'll hear more from Norida when we get to the panel discussion. But if you have any questions for her, feel free to drop them in the Q&A, and we'll get to them after our next two presentations. So we're staying on the same island here and moving over to Sarawak, as Norida mentioned. And from the Sarawak Tourism Board, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director of Marketing, International Market, Miss Mary Wan Miring. Mary, over to you.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon here from Kuching, Sarawak. Yeah, I would like to thank PATA really from the bottom of my heart to PATA for inviting me personally and Sarawak Tourism Board to be part of this panel webinar. Okay, all right. Now, just before I proceed with introducing you Sarawak, allow us to watch our video first so that you can discover yourself in Sarawak and continue to discover. Let's play the video. All right, thank you. So let's go the video that we want you to discover yourself and continue to discover Sarawak. Now, before we continue on our more serious discussions this afternoon on the COVID and how we embrace the COVID virus here in Sarawak, allow me to give you some more better explanations on the destinations itself. Okay, give me probably a few more minutes to share my slides so that I can share with you more interesting things about Sarawak. All right. I hope everyone can see my slides.
Just full screen it, please.
Okay, all right.
Oh, you have to start from the beginning of the slide.
Okay,
looks
right. Good. All right. Now presenting to you Destination Sarawak. My name is Mary, as Paul has introduced earlier on. I'm the International Marketing Director for the Sarawak Tourism Board. Now, as Norida, my counter sister in Sabah, we are on a very big island, on the island of Borneo, the third largest island in the world. Now, we are at the southern part of the Borneo Island. You can see that the island is covered with a lot of attractions. Okay, we have quite a lot of national parks. We have about more than 50 national parks. In fact, we have the most numbers of national parks in the whole of Malaysia. Our best selling points are our culture. If you come to Sarawak and you can see all the smiling faces of the local community, inviting you and giving you the best hospitality that we can ever give you, to give you the full experience. These are the smiles of fellow Sarawakians, ever ready to welcome you to the land of the hornbills. That's what we are well known here, because we are having a lot of wildlife. So we have a lot of natural attractions as well. But above all, we have the authentic experience that we can provide you in terms of culture and our heritage. Now, not forgetting, because about 70% of our land are still covered with tropical rainforest. Adventure is a natural things or natural activities that you can find here in Sarawak. Now, this is a typical adventure trekking that you can experience here in Sarawak. However that you look at it, Whether you are a strenuous adventurous or a soft adventure, we all have it. Just like these slides here, you can have a slow trekking or a slow canoeing or kayaking right in our rivers. We have so many rivers, so this is one of the soft adventure that we can offer to you. So don't limit yourself. Whichever way that you look at it, we all have the adventure for you. Our nature is very close to us. As you can see here, the famous orangutan. We have a center here in Kuching, not far away from the city center. It's about half an hour drive from the Kuching city center. You can come very close up to this orangutan. And this is one of our top selling national parks, the Bako National Parks. Now, when you come to these national parks, you are at least guaranteed to see any wildlife, you name it, like monkeys, like bearded wild boar. So this is the place that you can come to whenever you want to see or whenever you want to be very close up to the wildlife. Our food, yes, we are very famous for our food. We do have all range of food here, Asian food. We do have also Western food. We do have a lot of types of culinaries. And not forgetting our best-selling celebrity dish. Now, this dish is very popular here now in Sarawak simply because the famous Anthony Bourdain chef has made it very popular, and he called this dish especially the breakfast of the gods. So whoever comes to Sarawak must try. This is a must try. Of festivals, there is always reasons for you to come to Sarawak. So this is one of the best reasons that you ever come to Sarawak. So whenever the COVID is over and whenever we are free of all these disasters in the next coming years to come, we are here to welcome you to this festival. In fact, this festival has been very, very popular. That is already become like the 25 best top festivals in the world by songlines. All right, so I think I leave you, Paul, with this final slide. Well, there isn't any goodbye in the Sarawak language, but we always say you or see you again. Right, Paul, this is my last slide. And I leave you with that final slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. As I said, if you have any questions for Mary, you can also drop them in the Q&A. She'll be with us when we move to the panel discussion, but we have one more presentation. So let me just bring this up here. Okay. So from the island of Borneo and Sabah Sarawak, we're going to move just up north to Japan. Our next presenter isn't here with us, but they did provide a video for us to play. And this is from the Suruga Marketing and Tourism Bureau in Japan. So with that, I will then just signal my colleague over to play their video.
Shizuoka, home to Mount Fuji and boundless green tea fields, is located only an hour away from Tokyo via Shinkansen, making it the perfect nearby escape from the crowded city. If you love green tea, mountains, or the history and drama of the Edo period, Shizuoka would be just the hidden destination you have been searching for. Located between Tokyo and Osaka, Shizuoka is easily accessible. Regardless of whether you take a Shinkansen bullet train to Shizuoka Station, a plane to Shizuoka Mount Fuji Airport, or a cruise ship into Shimizu Port, all paths lead to Shizuoka. Shizuoka Station, a major stop along the Tokaido Shinkansen line, is in an ideal central location with plenty of hotels in walking distance. For those wanting a scenic view of Mount Fuji, Grand Hills Shizuoka's panoramic deluxe suite would be one of the best places you can stay at. Shizuoka is the largest tea producer of Japan, growing 40% of all tea in the country. However, not all tea is grown the same. The diversity of tea growing locations results in a multitude of flavors for you to discover in the tea country, which means you are sure to find the perfect cup of tea for you in Shizuoka. We strive to coexist with nature and contribute to sustainable tourism, and working together with the farmers is a part of the entire process. Get away from it all, either by yourself or in small groups, by visiting the tea plantation. At the farms, you'll be able to talk to local green tea farmers who will share the centuries-old secrets of growing, processing, and making tea. You can also try your hand at tea picking and don the traditional garb of the cha musume, women who help harvest the tea fields. Nothing beats watching the sunrise from a terrace in the middle of a tea field while drinking freshly brewed tea. In a more intimate setting, you can meet with tea masters who will create a tea pairing menu to match your dinner menu. Gaze out at Mount Fuji while enjoying some of the finest foods in tea country. The heart of Shizuoka's fishing industry lies in the 2,500-meter depths of the rich habitat known as Suruga Bay. There, you could dine on our scrumptious meals and board a cruise out on the bay, or find out how we get our seafood from boat to table by visiting one of our fish markets where live seafood auctions are held. After that, all that was bought that evening will be freshly cooked at one of our restaurants. Even our art has been influenced by the bay. Visit the inspiration for some of the most famous ukiyo-e drawings in Japan at the beaches of Nihon no Matsubara. Shizuoka's history is centered around the country's most famous shogun warlord, Tokugawa Ieyasu. This man helped to unify Japan and bring forth an unprecedented era of prosperity for the country. His resting place, a shrine located in the Nihon Daira Plateau, is renowned for its breathtaking views. His family's legacy can still be seen all around the region, whether in the remnants of castles or in the bridges that are still standing today. For those who'd like a blast to the past, take a ride on the authentic steam locomotives up into the Japanese Southern Alps, where you'll travel along the river and through the green tea fields that was the lifeblood of Shizuoka. Listen to the conductor's stories and learn about the train and the passengers of the day. Shizuoka has everything that you could possibly want, from the top of Mount Fuji to the depths of Suruga Bay. From the green tea fields in the mountains to the busy harbors. From modern to traditional. Escape from the chaos of everyday life in the city and discover your cup of tea here in Shizuoka's tea country.
Always watching these videos from the different destinations really is, I say to my colleagues, it's painful because it really makes you want to travel again. And I hope we all can do that somewhat sooner rather than later. But with that, we'll move on and go to our panel discussion. So I would like to now invite Norida and Mary back here so we can jump right into our discussion.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, wonderful videos from both of you. As I said, the videos are always painful because while they're beautiful and inspirational, it always just pains me because I can't travel right now. And you know, one thing I do want to do is travel. But let's just jump right to discussions here. Can you just tell me the current state of both your destinations? Well, I guess it'd be Malaysia in general, but what is it now? Is there travel restrictions between borders? Is there do they plan to open up, and what is the current situation for both of you?
Shall I go first? Okay.
All right. Yes, sure, Norida.
The older one goes first. Well,
yes.
we look at it this way. The country is still closed for international travel, and for also with regards to interstate travel, meaning Sabah and Sarawak, we cannot travel to each other's state. That's very unfortunate because we were depending on domestic travel before the international borders are open. However, with the current situation, interstate travel is not permitted either. And we're looking at if there is 80% of herd immunity, we will be able to start some sort of tourism activity. Currently in Sabah, unfortunately, we are still the lowest, or rather the slowest state in terms of achieving our vaccination. Although we are progressively moving, but we have many areas, which is in the rural areas, which is hard to reach in terms of vaccination. So that is one of the challenges for the state. But like I said earlier on, in terms of our tourism players, we have at least 80% of
the players, the frontliners that has had their first dose of vaccination. So that's quite promising for us.
Mary, and yourself, I mean, so I mean, we know about the situation there, but what about vaccinations in your states?
Okay, right. For Sarawak now, because the state has formed what we call the State Disaster Committee, which is the highest so-called the committee that is on a day-to-day giving us advisory and giving us a lot of updates on COVID. Now for Sarawak now, we are at about 54% of second doses of vaccination. So we are a little bit higher than the rest of Malaysia, because I think the government has put Sarawak as one of the pilot projects to be opened up soon in terms of domestic travelers. Recently as well, the government has opened up on the second phase of the recovery plan to open up as Langkawi and Kuching to be the first as a pilot project to be opened up for domestic travelers. Now, having said that, Paul, meaning that for domestic travelers, we are ever ready to open, and for the service providers, especially for travel agents, for hoteliers in Sarawak, now the SOP or the standard operating procedures requires them to have fully vaccinated second dose of vaccine, and also all their premises has to be fully sanitized. That's number one. And also to have all the standard operating procedures such as wearing masks and having face shields, especially for all the frontliners. So that is what has been put in place now for us, especially Kuching, the capital city, to be ready to accept all the domestic travelers. Now, on top and above of that, all the travelers that come to Sarawak now, they must first of all be also having 2 doses of vaccines before they enter Sarawak. Okay, now in order to ensure or in order to be rest assured that they are already having 2 doses of vaccine, they must come up with their digital certificate of their vaccine. So this is what they have to show to us before entry into Sarawak. All right, so that's what it is for us now.
Just a follow-up question to what you said. You said fully vaccinated, 2 doses, but what about, you know, I mean, this is a question I've seen somewhere else. What about if you had the Janssen, the one from Johnson & Johnson, which is a 1-shot vaccine? Would that still be accepted as being fully vaccinated, or is it specifically only to certain vaccines?
Okay, now for Sarawak, because commonly here we have the 2 doses of the Sinovac and also the Pfizer. Now for the Johnson & Johnson, it requires only 1 dose of vaccine. Yes, whatever that it shows in their digital certificate, so that is what that is being accepted by the committee that is going to screen through every entry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really, the language is not double vaccinated, but I guess fully vaccinated. Yeah, I think because you hear a lot of tourism players say that, oh, double vaccinated, but then you've heard the other side said, well, what about Johnson & Johnson? So make sure we change that language to say fully vaccinated. But then I want to get to another destination you in Malaysia that you had mentioned, Langkawi, because I thought Langkawi was also going to be pilot for international. Is that correct? Because you said it was domestic, but it's going to be for international as well, right? Do you know?
I can't say on behalf of that, but what we were told is that on the domestic front, we are going to open up Kuching or Sarawak, Kuching especially, and Langkawi. So what it means is that we can accept domestic travelers. I think having said that too, what is required for Sarawak is that any the international travelers that come into Sarawak, okay, they must first be having swab tests, RT-PCR swab tests, at least 72 hours prior to come to Sarawak, and having to undergo the 14 days quarantine. So that's quite common for every destination, I guess. Yeah.
All right, and then I would assume, but both your states will look closely at Langkawi and Kuching in terms of when they open up, and then if the policies work, you'll use that as a guidelines for both your states.
Right. You are right. Yes. So then the rest of the Malaysian destinations like Sabah will be open up soon as well. Yeah.
All right. Norda, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I think we are looking forward to opening up our state domestically within Malaysia first, and then, but at the same time, we are still currently talking to a few nearby destinations such as Singapore, trying to establish isolation travel. Yeah, and that is when Malaysia is looking forward to opening our international border with the selective destination.
What about, I mean, Brunei, since Brunei, right, and Indonesia, I mean, they're both located on the island Borneo. Has that ever been a discussion, just even between those two countries on the island of Borneo?
Well, Malaysia has had discussion with Brunei, and I think it's still ongoing. Brunei being a very small country, they are more cautious. So I think we shall wait when both sides are feeling comfortable in opening our doors and their doors to both ways.
Yeah, but I guess the most important thing now is vaccinations, because as you said, you know, you're looking at least 80% for 80% of local population to be vaccinated before you can open up borders. And then
Right.
in terms of vaccinations, are you know, earlier today we heard from Guam. Guam was doing a lot in terms of helping advocate for, you know, vaccines. They had a lot of programs. Is there any types of programs either Sabah or Sarawak is doing to help advocating vaccine acceptance?
For Sarawak, Paul, now the first clusters of vaccines has been out. Like the first clusters was the front lines, and then later on coming to the second cluster, which are the elderly. Now for Sarawak, we are coming into the third cluster now, which are the younger generations from 12 to 18 years old. So this is where the Sarawak government now is trying to really pushing up so that the herd immunity will be increasing among fellow Sarawakians. So it makes so much safer for everybody to move around, especially when we know that rest assured that everyone has already been vaccinated. Now, also recently, the Sarawak government has just also mentions that with the latest Delta variant, now is that we have to live with it as a normal endemic now within the community. So this is just also, I think they were looking at other countries like Singapore or the UK or even Europe countries that people has been starting to live with the virus. And then this also will ensure that other economic sectors to be opened up slowly, but also safely, I guess, yeah.
Likewise, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Up to, please.
Likewise, Sabah state government is going very seriously into making sure that the vaccination progress is moving fast. Like I said earlier on, the challenge is the rural areas. Yeah, there are still places that are hard to reach, and in terms of getting double dose, see, yes, coming in for first dose, but they may not come back for the second dose. So the state government is looking at distributing single dose vaccination, the likes of Johnson & Johnson or other vaccine that requires only one dose. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's jump to some questions from the audience here. I'll just start with this one that just was recently submitted here. When both Sarawak and Sabah open their borders to fully vaccinated Malaysians or local expats, will quarantine still be required? If yes, how many days? So for domestic travel, would quarantine still be required? Well, and if so, how many days?
Okay, now as it is now, the standard operating procedure to enter Sarawak, you must have a form. There is a form that is called Enter Sarawak that you fill up whenever you come to the entry points, either airports or at the other entry points on land. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier on, Paul, that you have to have the PCR swab test at least 72 hours prior for arrival, and also the when you arrive, you have to be quarantined for 14 days. and you are also required to take 2 swab tests within the quarantine period, first on the day of arrival and also on the 10th day of the quarantine. So that is what the standard operating procedure as it is now.
All right. Norida?
For Sabah, it's well, basically when we decide to open our borders for international travel, especially leisure travel, we hope that we will not be looking at any quarantine days, except for, of course, the relevant vaccination passports.
But I think the question was regarding local. I mean, so like domestic travel. If borders should open between Sarawak and Sabah per se, you know, would you expect there to be any quarantine when that happens, or that would just okay? All right, fairly simple. Okay,
It'll be difficult for them to be quarantined in the hotel when they are looking forward to being a tourist within the state.
Yeah, because it's local, right? So most local travel would be, of course, maybe a long weekend, right? Like a 3 or 4 day weekend. So having a 7-day quarantine would really just would
defeat the purpose.
Yes,
I think the most important,
travel.
the most important is that they are fully vaccinated, and taking their, they've taken their PCR tests.
Okay, go to another question here. This is from, I guess, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Jobert Opulencia. His question is, AstraZeneca and Sinovac have been proven by some countries to not really protect those who have gotten it. Some countries have even allowed people vaccinated with Sinovac or AstraZeneca to get a 3rd shot of either Pfizer or Moderna. Turkey now even has allowed a 4th shot of either Pfizer or Moderna. Has this been considered since Malaysia has used Sinovac and AstraZeneca? Has there been talk of, Mary had mentioned that, you know, the main vaccines have been Sinovac and AstraZeneca. Has there ever been talk of a 3rd booster shot for the population?
Well, Paul, we have heard about the 3rd vaccinations for whatever, I think it's for Pfizer and also for Sinovac. Yeah, I think the government is still evaluating on that. There are talks about it, yes, for the 3rd vaccine, but it has yet to happen yet, because I think they are still waiting for the 2nd fully dose to take place first before they can roll out the 3rd dose. So whenever that happens, I think the government has fully evaluated all the consequences of what will happen, including the operational part of it, and also including movement, even among domestic travelers, or even when international travelers, or whenever international border is going to open soon. So I think the government is having quite a lot of things to consider whenever that things happen later on. Yeah, but there are talks about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume, you know, the most important thing is just getting, you know, everyone just their 1st and 2nd doses first, right? And then, you know, 3rd dose would be something to consider later on. I mean, with the vaccination rate so low, I mean, not just in Malaysia, but in the region, you know, I guess this would be the case for most governments. All right. And, you know, I think we have a few more minutes. So if you do have any questions, I'm asking the audience, if you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. So as you sort of preparing for some kind of recovery and restart, I mean, how are you working with your local stakeholders right now? I mean, are you providing upskilling for your stakeholders, reskilling? What's that been for you in terms of assistance for your local stakeholders? Norida?
Well, throughout the last 18 months, we have been in very close contacts with our local stakeholders, and we have also assisted them in various ways. One of them is because we were putting emphasis on rural tourism. So the government have also rolled out assistance, you know, making sure that the rural tourism products and other products are being maintained during this pandemic. And also we've rolled out several assistance in terms of cash assistance to operators, hoteliers, as well as even individuals, the likes of tour guides, tour buses drivers, boatmen. So we have done those cash disbursement to them to help them survive throughout the current pandemic.
So, sorry, your sound keeps cutting in and out a bit, or it gets like higher and lower, Norida. So
Want me to repeat that?
No, I heard it. It's just like your sound had sort of was high, then all of a sudden the volume went really low. But yeah, I've heard that. Mary, what about you over in Sarawak? Huh?
Now, ever since that, when we started the lockdown way back in 2020, March 2020, Paul, the Sarawak Tourism Board, we immediately roll out our domestic campaign. There is a domestic campaign we call Sia Sito Sarawak. What it literally means is that getting here and there in Sarawak. Yeah. So that was mainly for domestic travelers, I mean local Sarawakians and also residents in Sarawak, to visit our own places first, to visit our own tourism attractions. Now, what I noticed throughout this campaign was that a lot of fellow Sarawakians were not aware that we do have very good tourism attractions within our own backyard. So this has a two-pronged strategy. So number one is that to expose our own attractions to our own fellow Sarawakians, which otherwise they wouldn't know that they have such a beautiful attractions at their own backyard. And number two is that we are also encouraging our own local industry, our travel agents, and also our tourist guides and all the service providers to upgrade their own facilities so that they keep on maintaining their facilities throughout the COVID or throughout the pandemic. Now, again, the government also, throughout that campaign, the government has provided incentives, okay, for all the ground handlers who are selling these packages as an incentives, and we subsidize the price of the packages so that local can afford to pay for the packages. So those are the ones that we have rolled out since March. I think we launched it in May in 2020. So the Sia Sito version 1. And just as we speak now, just last month, August, we have launched the second one, the Sia Sito version 2. So it has kind of like the response has been very overwhelming. So we have come up with the second versions just to encourage a lot of movement among local people. Okay, now having said that as well, Paul, it doesn't mean that these packages will be also just confined for fellow Sarawakian. In future, when the international border is going to open, we will definitely, certainly, we will open up this campaign as well to our international visitors. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I think that there's just one last question here, and this is for, it's not a question, I guess. The question for Sabah is lovely promo video of Sabah. So many places have come up in the past 10 to 20 years. Is the video you showed available for download on your tourism websites?
Yes, it is available. And if you can't get it, always email us. We'll be more than happy to update you and provide you with a high-res video. Thank you.
Yes, if you're interested, of course, if you have any questions also, and we didn't get to them here, you can also visit their booths. So if you want that video, you can also visit their virtual booth and talk to a representative directly to get that video. And they both can easily be found there, and you can learn about all the various attractions that they have, so to help plan your journeys in the future. I think that is the end of this session. Do you want to leave with any last words? I'll start off with Norida. Any last words before we end this first part of the session?
Thanks, Paul. I think for us, we look forward to welcoming everyone, including yourself, back to Sabah when the international borders are open. Meanwhile, do stay safe. And I think the solidarity among the tourism players is very important during this pandemic. And once the borders are open, we hope we will be able to support each other further.
Thank you. Mary?
Okay, all right. Thank you, Paul, and thank you for Pata. Now, please do visit our visual booth. There were about 10 of us there at the booth. So whoever that wants more information about Sarawak and all the updates about all the attractions that we have in Sarawak, I think they are there now. I have been in contact with them just a few minutes ago, and then it looks like there are a lot of discussions going on now at the virtual booth. And also, just before I leave, Paul, I think all of us in the tourism industry here under PATA, we are all in this together, and we are coming out out of this together as well. So let's support each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. You know, no matter how much we do for our own destinations in terms of just being vaccinated, you know, it won't help if the source markets itself aren't vaccinated and ready as well, you know, in terms of guidelines and harmonizing that. So, you know, it's not just one person able to beat this. It takes all of us working together. So thank you so much, Norida. Thank you so much, Mary. I do hopefully hope and wish that I can visit both your destinations again. They were the last two destinations I think I visited before the actual lockdown. So, you know, as I said, Sabah was our last event, and then just before that we visited Sarawak as we were planning an event there as well. So I do hope to be able to go back.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice day. Thank you.
You too.
Stay.
Okay, so we've heard from some destinations, but we have a second part of this session here. Sorry, let me just move quickly. And we're going to look into some TMCs and tour operators and hear from them, a little bit about them, and then we'll have a quick panel discussion, just talk about, you know, how they're adapting to the current situation and what their plans are. So with that, let me introduce our first speaker. He's the inbound manager for Asian Trails China. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Simone Sterla. Simone, over to you.
Good morning. Thanks a lot for the opportunity and the introduction. I will try to share a brief presentation. I mean, I represent Asian Trails Group, and we have we've been in the market for quite a time at the moment. I'm experiencing some issue with the sharing. So basically, we are present in 9 Southeast Asian countries with 34 offices, and I'm taking care personally about China, which has been during this last period quite unique as an environment. This is something that we will cover later on, but the domestic market is pretty active and pretty fierce, the competition. Being this area, the one where we can work actively at the moment, we had to readapt in some ways, following also more specifically which the new trends of China has been. And we saw, maybe also prompted by the COVID situation, a big push toward everything which is outdoor. This, in a way, has been anticipated also by international trends. And we've been also helping this because many hospitality groups, they already started to appear, to pop up. I'm sorry, I cannot share images with you now. In remote area, we start to have luxury lodges, new architecture solutions, mixing up local tradition with futuristic design in some way, or a very posh one. Something that just a few years ago was almost unthinkable here in China. This all new range of hospitality solution allow us to push the boundaries of the classical circuits. One point is China is mostly known for its classical, also having 55 UNESCO heritage. It's known for this classical destination, but it's a country which is, first of all, huge. It has desert, forest, mountains, so a lot of different ecosystem. And something that often people tend to forget, it's home to 56 different ethnic groups. And so this is what we push during the last period. Outdoors, hiking, sports, cycling, and of course a big Thank you. And a big push on what is sustainable. This is kindly an overview about, yes, our group. I will kindly ask to go a bit forward. Okay. And so just to close the quick intervention, it will be the key that we found is just to mix outdoor experience, especially hiking, following traditional routes. Like the tea caravan, which is in Yunnan, or other specific routes that were in use during the ancient time. And I would share the floor in this moment, as I'm not able to move on the slides, unfortunately. And so, Paul, if you are there, I leave the floor to you.
Well, thank you, Simone. Sorry,
I'm sorry for the technology mismatch. I wasn't happy with that.
No, it's okay. You know, if anybody just wants the slides, you can visit their booth at the virtual platform. But we also can send it to all attendees here as a follow-up to this presentation. So thank you, Simone. We'll be back with Simone in just after our next speaker, and he'll join us for a panel discussion. So any questions you might have, please do feel free to drop them in the Q&A. So thank you, Simone, and I'll just introduce the next speaker. And our next speaker is the regional manager, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Laos at Discover. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Peter Christensen. Peter.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes. Yeah. Feel free to introduce yourself and your company.
Thank you very much. So my name is Peter, and I represent Discover, a DMC located in 11 countries throughout Asia. And most recently, we just added another 3 countries in Americas. So that's Mexico, Costa Rica, and Dominican Republic. And I oversee 4 countries. I'm probably the largest one in the group. I have 4 great countries that I oversee. But basically the company, and I know today we talk a lot about COVID and the situation we're in now. We've been pretty blessed that we have not closed down during the pandemic. We have had to lay off a lot of our good old colleagues, and hopefully they will come back to work with us again when all of this is over. But basically, we've been staying open all along. We have not closed down, which has been really great for some people. We've been able to support each other. We've been able to stay in contact with suppliers and hotels, which I think is, we almost get excited when someone comes to see us in the office. It's quite nice that you have a face-to-face meeting, which we now can start do again. I'm based in Bali, so it's pretty much open for going around. We can visit each other, of course, with masks and hand sanitizer and so on. So today, I just wanted to quickly go through a little bit about what we have focused on during COVID and make sure that we have ready for when people do come back. And a lot of it has been focused on development and local development. We launched a new initiative in Bali, where we work with local farmers and our suppliers to make sure they can distribute their goods, because a lot of our guides, drivers, and office staff, they've gone back to their hometown, and a lot of them have started to do some kind of farming or traditional products, which we now start to look into help them to offset into the suppliers and into hopefully the world one day. Then we want to make sure we have a higher local impact when we do start to open again. So when we do bring people back, we make sure we get that money or some of that revenue into the local communities, because that's where it's needed right now. We focused a lot on technology and connectivity. and then helps suppliers, our suppliers, with distribution. How can they distribute their product to the world and not going in and investing heavily in technology themselves, but we can do this for them. Yeah, so that's really what we're focusing on during the pandemic. And that's it, Paul.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Peter. And let me invite Simone back, and we'll just have a quick panel discussion. I said any questions you have for Peter or Simone, please do drop them into the Q&A. And I'll just jump right into this. So, Peter, you had mentioned some of, how you sort of adapted to the current situation. As many organizations had do, you had to lay off some staff, but you said you're still running operationally, and talked about some of the stuff you've done in Bali. And how else have you adapted to, I guess cash flow is going to be the most important thing. How have you adapted to the current, in terms of that?
Yeah, so of course we really had to look outside that box, right? Our entire business just crumbled within very short time, and all of the people on these calls, they will know that this happened, but we really have to look at what do we do and what can we, for example, how can we adapt our product that we used to give to the Western market to go into to target the domestic market, and something that's been very popular in Thailand and Indonesia is biking. So a lot of people are going into exercise. So we adapted some of their vehicles. We own a fleet of about 60 vehicles, and we adapted some of those vehicles to be able to carry bicycles. So people can basically rent them. You put in your bike into the car, and you can travel around the country, and you can then take the bikes out and you do a certain leg per day. We've gone in to look at how we can interact with the domestic traveler. We've never been traditionally domestic focused. We've always been Western focused. Australia, Europe, and the US has always been our key markets, but now we start looking into the domestic market, which continues to grow for us. It's been quite a success story, so we're happy with that. We see a lot of success. I know my colleague Quinn is on the call as well. She's our BDM for Vietnam, and before the COVID, we had quite a lot of traction in the Vietnamese market, but also the Philippines. So it's a shift of what we traditionally do. We don't let go of what we traditionally do. We just adapt to what's going on around us.
So pretty much the domestic market, which is what everyone's sort of shifted towards now.
Yeah, that also integration with partners overseas. How can we interact with them? How can we help them to get back on their legs, because they're also losing money in their end, right? We're quite fortunate. We have a good parent company based in Australia that has saw this coming very, very early, and they took action very, very quickly. So they're able to keep the wheels going. Our Mexico office, our Mexico, Dominican Republic, and Costa Rica are running full power. They've never been so busy than what they are right now. Which in Asia, when you talk to them, it's like, how is that possible? But they're running out of spare tires, they're running out of gasoline, they're running out of vehicles to just take our clients from the airport to the hotel, which is sort of a dream for everyone else.
Yeah, I can imagine. Many people here would love to have that problem, right? Simone, what about your Asian trails, and how they've adapted during this crisis?
Part of the answer, I mean, all the Southeast Asian countries, they follow up. I mean, we did what everybody's doing, so we are adapted to the domestic market. We focus a lot on the expat market because it's more close to to our string, let's say. Concerning specifically the China market, I would say we've been lucky in a way, because we were already preparing to promote to our agents, to our guests, located especially in Europe, but also United States, South America, a new set, let's call it a new China, so a new set of experiences, mostly located in the western part of the destination of the country, so areas that are not much known to the general public. And so we've been lucky because we met exactly the wave that the domestic market is looking forward to. Of course, we are talking about a niche in this market, which is pretty much influenced by Western trends, or let's say something more posh or international. We're not talking about, let's say, the group market. This is something that, especially in China, obey to totally different logic. And we are income in DMC, so we are not able to touch it or to get into it. But we are pretty sure that when it will be possible to travel again, then the work we are doing at the moment, it will be greatly appreciated and it will create, I believe, a great interest toward this country, which is ancient and in a way, but very futuristic on the other side. And it's really very authentic. Sorry to interrupt you.
I don't know. Yeah, so I mean, so you're focusing on sort of the rural, secondary, tertiary destinations, rural tourism, with a focus, I guess, on culture and heritage.
It's cultural heritage. It's about allow me to use the term authenticity. Let's say that we are visiting the country as it is. So in some cases, we are following stories, ancient roots. So you will find relics, monuments, and so forth. Again, monuments which are not well known. But then especially you will find natural wonders, which are, for example, just before COVID, the route from Yunnan to Tibet, which is the ancient tea route, which is taking the tea from Yunnan up to India, was open to foreigner for the first time. And so that was a brilliant product. And we were also covering it by helicopter track besides on the road. So we find ways to offer, let's say, a reasonable priced travel, but also luxury. And as I said before, this is thanks to the pop-up of all new hospitality solution in places where before it was impossible to find anything.
Thanks. Well, Peter, I just want to go back to you. You know, you're talking about domestic travel, how you're focusing on biking, I guess. So that trend, you're seeing like more healthy sort of activities. But then do you also see like domestic travel? They're looking back to sort of get back to their culture and heritage. Have you seen that in your shift from international to domestic tourism?
That's a good question. Yes and no. I think what they're also looking for, and I think that's not just for domestic travelers, to be honest, but it's really, you start to value time more with friends and family. So it's about creating those, it doesn't have to be a flash luxury escape that you go on, but it's more about having that time together. And I see that something, even for expats that lives here, they seek to have that connection with their kids, you know, creating those connections with families and friends. So we see, funny enough, a lot of camping, a lot of bonfires, a lot of glamping. It's super trendy at the moment. And it's something that we're looking into as well. Can we use that momentum to fuel a project where we could basically go in and go to a remote area where there's not a lot of tourism and establish such a camp of, you know, glamping and activities, and then employ local people into that project. That's sort of the vision for what we're doing in Bali at the moment. And that vision, I hope will go on to do 2 more in Thailand, 1 in Sabah and 1 in Cambodia, to see how we can create those atmospheric experiences and have simple activities. They don't have to be overly, you know, flashy, but they can also be adapted. 3-star product, but we can again then adapt them to become a 5-star product. Like, can it be dinner under the skies or under the stars? Can it be dinner in a rice field? So it's finding local experiences that you can adapt to a multiple level of audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, so like you adapt them for the domestic market, but then as borders open up, you adapt them. Excuse me. you adapt them for the international market and sort of raise it from, as you said, a 3-star to a 5-star.
Yeah, and a lot of people always say, oh, the domestic is different than the international. I don't think so, to be honest. I see there are some differences, but you have bikers, you have people who bike a lot in Western countries as well. You also have it here. You have people who likes to go glamping, camping. You also have that here. We can set the two markets apart. Of course, they travel different lengths and different, some want to do all the Instagram stuff and so on. But it's about people. It's not about markets, I believe. And I think what I realized during the pandemic is really, as a DMC, the power you have of having a tourist that comes in and you can sell them a product that gives back to the community. I think that's one of my biggest takeaway from COVID. The power we have to deliver that experience and give that community the ability to reach the world and get educated and help them to get English lessons and help them to get better school education, women in travel. How can we integrate them into our organization and not just go to the mainstream tourism places, Grand Palace, Ubud, and all of these places? We want to get a little bit away from that and make sure we don't over tourism, but spread it out, spread the share, spread the the revenue, and so everybody gets a bit of a share of it.
Yeah, so it seems that both your organizations are doing this kind of more like rural tourism development, like as that trend is happening, I guess, moving towards in that direction. Is that correct? It seems like both of you guys are doing that right now. Simone?
Yeah, I would say so. We find it because for two main reasons. One, it's definitely, I'm talking about the group, but I think reasons are pretty similar. It's more close to our core values. And then secondly, we and here I'm talking about all the destination that makes Asian Trails Group. We are made by, except few foreigners, by local people, and we share a passion for the country itself. And from this optic, it's really a pity to limit the attractiveness or the understanding a traveler may have of the country to some iconic places. And then also, as was mentioned, we are trying to give back to local community to improve the situation they may have, or to have them just to develop a little bit the destination itself and make them part of this opportunity in a way.
And then, okay, it's really great what you guys are both what your organizations are both doing. But then, I guess another question I have then is if you're going into these rural communities, how do you prevent that from having the negative impacts of tourism, right? Like over tourism. Like if you do something in sort of an unknown or unknown destination, how do you prevent that from becoming something known and becoming another over tourist destination? How are both organizations sort of keeping that in mind as you're developing sort of new rural tourism products? Peter? Oh, Simone, he's pointing to you, Simone.
No, Peter, I let you the floor. It's a tough
one. I think it's about, I think for us, we normally go into a community by ourselves. We don't go in through an NGO, or we have traditionally done that before, but we start to move away from that because it limits your access to work with the community and really make it as part of that experience when you go in and make it a part of the overall project. So what we want to have, you can say we want to have a little bit of control and work with start educating the village or the community what's coming and what's going to happen. And they will all be very excited when people start to come in, but we just need to make sure it doesn't take over. The reason why we're there is to provide income and a controlled environment. And I'm sure that it will take off, and we will have to move and look at other communities in the future. But again, we do want to make sure we don't funnel people into where the mass tourism goes at the moment. We do need to spread out, and somebody has to take charge of that and start doing this, and then hopefully others will come with us and follow. Yeah, so I think it's a matter of communication. Have those conversations with the local community, find the right community, because that's just as important as building the project and have the vision. If you don't find the right partner or the right community, then it can very, very quickly go off course, and you're gonna end up doing a lot more damage. And I think it's also about creating a sustainability for the village. What happens when you walk away? What happens if something happens, right? We close down Bali. How can they survive? How can we build that structure for them so they're strong enough to stand by themselves when we leave?
Simone, you wanted to?
I mean, I do agree with the words just spent, because key point is definitely to employ and to work with the local community. That's the cornerstone, I would say. And then, of course, in most of this, how to prevent over tourism, let's say. Just to put it very, very simply and a little bit to the extreme. Well, most of these locations are not so easily reached. So in some way, logistically, they are a little bit defended. And also this kind of experience, they are specifically for, it's not every kind of tourist or even traveler would be attracted to them, or let's say this kind of experience would not be suitable for everybody. You can, I mean, we are using this payoff as like extraordinary travels for everybody, but our work is also to give to everybody the right experience, because otherwise it will not meet his expectation, or will not meet what he may understand fully. And so in that part, I believe we are a long way before this kind of community could be in a danger of being overexploited.
Well, yeah. I mean, over tourism is something that would not be a problem now, right? I mean, I
give you a figure. Lijiang, which was maybe the first Chinese UNESCO heritage, and it started as a small village town, stone town. I just visited there. It was 97 the first time. Now, just before COVID time, it was receiving 3 times the visitor of Venice in Italy. So, let's say 80% domestic tourism. So, but the Chinese domestic tourism, and we are talking, I mean, it's a country of 1.5 billion people. Not all of them travel, but it's consistent as a number. They obey to a different kind of logic. So I don't believe there's, and they need an airport, they need a certain kind of hotel, certain kind of activities, entertainment. It's a different frame. So I think we are safe for the moment.
For the moment, time will tell, right? But I have a question. I was thinking about this idea of local communities. This is from Dr. Fency at STB. What is your perception about the community's acceptance level of tourism during this pandemic period? So, I mean, if per se well, even domestic, right? You would still have local communities be weary of any outsiders, of course, because of the current pandemic. Has that been an issue? I mean, or how have you sort of eased their concerns about that, Peter?
I haven't experienced an issue with it. I think it's down to common sense on how you enter the village as well, right? You wear your protective gear, you have a conversation, you have most of the villages in Indonesia now, they have their wash basin when you come in and you have to go out and do this. We regularly check every 2 weeks, all staff go through a PCR test, which is paid by us as well, but it's just a precaution that you need to take. And it's like, we and again, repeating the phrase, we're going to live with this. So we just need standards in place of what happens when this happens. What are we going to do? If everybody's clear on that, what's going to happen, then everybody knows how to do things, and then we can move forward. We can't stand still and wait for this to go away. We have to move forward. If that's wearing a mask, doing your hand sanitizer, get tested once every 2 weeks, then that's what it takes. We live in tourism. It's our responsibility to protect ourselves and take the precautions of making sure this doesn't spread any further. But we can also not let the people down and just leave and say, hey, see you later when everything comes back. We need to stay, work on how we're going to open back up, work with our suppliers, stay in contact, make sure they are okay, and support each other, and then we can move forward when things open back up. So I haven't seen them not being welcoming for us to come in. No.
No, it seems that you're reassuring them by providing all those procedures and protocols.
Yeah, and we follow the government, right? It's government rules and regulations. So we just follow that. As long as we follow that, keep ourselves updated, make sure you know what COVID is all about, how it affects people, and if or when it happens, what are you going to do?
And Samo, what about you? How's that experience for you in China?
Well, in China, I would say it's pretty different from maybe anywhere else, because here the control is quite invasive in a way. It's pretty much, I mean, for example, in Europe, there's a big debate about this, let's say, the privacy or APP following your movement and so forth. Here, it's simply mandatory. And I have to say it's working. I mean, the number speaks for themselves. Then there are a period of where this kind of control is strengthened a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, recently there have been like 100 cases due to a contamination from a cargo flight in Nanjing. And so travel was very much under scrutiny, any kind of travel. But then after this situation are controlled, it relaxes again. So just you need to scan your QR code when you enter public building, when you enter public transportation. Then in some period you need to scan it when you enter at work, or for sure where you board the train, a flight, and so forth. And then every city has multiple layer of check in this case. So the protocol it's pretty established, I would say. Many hotels develop new technologies for visual recognition, identification, but it's working also in the airport, so you don't have to touch anything. You just board at the boarding gate and it scans your face, it's open, and you get in. They put pretty, I mean, the government, and then I would say everybody, it's very attentive has a very attentive attitude. So if you are around, you are supposed to be okay. You're supposed to be there, otherwise you will not be there. And so that there's no fear of visitors in this sense.
Oh, yeah, because they know the government's taking care of everything and making sure that everyone's
Totally.
safe. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's interesting to see. I mean, as being someone working in China, it's a unique perspective of the Chinese traveler, I guess, and their behavior, especially during this current time. Well, I think we're just about running out of time, but one last question. I mean, so in terms of just for your both organizations, I want to talk about the suppliers, right? I mean, as you look sort of to plan some kind of recovery and restart travel, I mean, has your suppliers and your supply chain, how much has that been affected? And you know, are you looking at new suppliers? Are you trying to, you know, how is that for you for both your organizations? Peter?
So we've been recently, in the last 2-3 weeks, we started to contact all the suppliers again and sort of getting them out of this hibernation mode, because I think that's actually going to be the biggest issue when we start turning back on. People are waiting, and all of a sudden things start to happen, and then we have to wake everybody up. I think we will be ready. That's the beauty about Asia, right? You know, things don't seem to happen, but then they happen very, very quickly, which is sort of what keeps me going. But we are starting to work with our suppliers, and luckily for us, we can take a lot of the learnings from what our teams are doing in Mexico, how they are starting back up, shortages of supply, even down to tires to a car. So we will start stocking those things in advance and making sure that we look at things. Do we have all our guides, keeping contact with them and making sure that they are ready and prepared. We upskill them again, retouch their English, retouch how body language and service skills and all of that. We start doing that slowly now. So we have sort of a soft out of hibernation period, and then hopefully it's going to be a hard hit when people start coming back. But we need to do that now, because if that travel, what we see now, the trends, Phuket is a good example, right? The sandbox is not overwhelmingly successful now, but people are coming in, and you saw 4 flights coming in today. Emirates, Qatar, Israel was coming in as well. So it is starting to get some momentum, and once it's successful, then the other countries will follow and things will happen. Because there is a need for us to open. The governments in many of our countries where we operate are not super generous with supporting the local communities or local people. So there is a need for us to start opening something up now and get some jobs back. Because, for example, Bali, right, 80% of our population here relies on tourism. Phuket is the same, Samui, and a lot of so in Sabah and Sarawak as well. We need to get that tourism back and start making revenue so people can start to make a little bit of money and get back on their feet. But we need to help them to do that. So that's what we're doing now. We're starting to see who's still here, what do they need to get started back up, are we ready, how are we going to service our clients, and so on and so on. But it's an interesting journey, and it's quite rewarding, because it's great to get out there and see people again and start having these conversations again, right? It creates a bit of excitement. Finally, has to happen.
No, definitely. Simone?
For us, it's fun. I mean, the market actually it's totally recovered. I would say so. Everybody and the competition became very fierce. So supplier became sometime a competitor. Supplier became partner. Became some sort of alliance was created, because in some cases they even sell our product to the general public, because now our main reference the main reference is the general public, and then you create alliances with association, other operators. So it really depends by the attitude of the individual. In some cases can be very antagonistic. In some cases you can find ways to profit from the differences. So it's quite interesting, the situation right now, also because it's shifting with new balances or developments, and so it's mutable. Let's put it in a way. For sure, when the international travel will come back, also because we have many died let's say. They were forced to close activity. And so we were also forced to find new ones. And so for when the market will reopen, we had the chance to really go through all how the organization was working. So it was interesting and useful from a certain point of view.
Well, thank you, Peter and Simone. I think we're just about out of time, but really, you guys have two different perspectives of the current situation on the ground, and I thank you so much for providing that today. There's a lot we could talk about. I'm really interested about your developments in the local communities, the rural communities. It's great to hear what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for spending the time with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you, Peter. If anybody has any more questions for either Peter or Simone or about the organizations, feel free to visit their virtual booth. Just go to the map and click on their virtual booths. You can then reach out to one of the representatives, find out more about their products, activities, or any questions you wanted to ask them but were afraid to ask here. Feel free to visit them today and tomorrow. All right, take care, and I'll take care. I'm going to do a quick wrap up so you guys can both leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So once again, thank you to all of our speakers today. So Norida, Mary, Peter, and Simone, and we also had Suguru, who had presented a video earlier today as well. So thank you so much to all our speakers. Thank you to all of you for joining us my afternoon. It could be morning or evening, wherever you may be, but thank you very much for joining us. I just want to give you an update for tomorrow. For tomorrow at 9 a.m., of course, we have business appointments. So for our sellers and buyers, please note you have your business points from 9 to 12:40. Remember, all times are in China time, so that's GMT +8. At 10:15, there's a live streaming from the opening ceremony of the Sichuan International Travel Expo, our partner for this event. And then at 12:40 and between 12:40 and 13:20, join me at the Buyer Insights Exchange. We'll be hearing from two buyers about just about their developments and how they've adapted and what they're learning from their clients, what kind of products they're looking for. So please do join us for that session. Join me with David and Sudakit. Then later on, we have walk-in meetings at 1 to 2. Then we have another session, hotel accommodation and other insights exchange and product briefings, and that will be with me. So that is at 1:30 to 2:30. And then, of course, we have some more business points in the afternoon. And then we end the day with our last PTM forum, Destination Recovery Insights from Southeast Asia, West Asia, and South Asia. We will hear from Azerbaijan, Nepal, and the Tourism Authority of Thailand for that session. So please do join us. There will be a networking session right after that where you'll be able to meet some of the speakers from the PTM forum. So please do join us for that session. Then later on after that, of course, there's some games. It's a video destination experience. So please do join us. There'll be 2 videos, and then there'll be some quizzes about the videos you've just watched, and then more walk-in meetings and business appointments as we move into the later evening. But then again, the event is not over. It's open on Saturday and Sunday. It's our trade visitor days, so trade visitors can meet with our sellers. There's also another quiz on Saturday and a quiz on Sunday, and we'll hear from closing remarks from Pata CEO and Lushan. So please do keep that in your calendar. So once again, thank you to our host for this event. It's the Lushan Culture, Radio, Television, and Tourism Bureau. Thank you for hosting this event. Also, our official event partner, SCITE, which is the Sichuan International Travel Expo. Also, thank you to our official virtual platform partner, Dragon Trail, and also our contributing partners. Sorry, I won't go through all of them. Also, as always, thank you to our PATA members, our PATA partners, PATA Life members, chapter members, for your continued support. Without that, none of this would be possible. If you have any questions about today's sessions or the earlier sessions or about any of the sessions coming up over the next few days, feel free to email me. Email is easy. It's paul@pata.org. And with that, that is the end of today's session. Thank you so much once again to our speakers. Thank you to all of you, and I will see you